Hi, so this is a video on how to do the timing on a Mini N18 engine. This video is primarily for myself in case I've got to do this again at some point, but it might help somebody else out there. Now, I learned how to do this just by watching a video, but although the video was great in pretty much every way, showed you exactly how to do the timing chain, he skipped several things, one of them being how to fix the timing. There's a few other things that he skipped or didn't explain properly that caused me issues as well. So I ended up watching about 3 different videos and also read the instructions on how to do a chain on an N14, which is a different engine, but most of it's the same. So this is basically a accumulation of all of those things. So one thing to note, I don't think this makes much of a difference or any difference, but this is an automatic. Possible the pinning the flywheel might be slightly different on a manual, but I'm sure you guys will work that out. So basically what you should do is do the timing before you replace the chain. So if you're just doing the if you just want to do the timing, obviously do the timing. You can skip a lot of these steps, but if you take this apart, you need to do the chain, you need to do the timing first, otherwise you won't be able to put the locking tools on here. Now the issue that I had was that the exhaust was fine, but the inlet wasn't. It was very slightly out. So basically when I put this down, instead of this, actually let me put this one down first just to make it more obvious. So this one sat flat and this one was up at an angle like so. So I didn't know how to do the timing on this, so what I did was I used a 27mm spanner. This is with the chain on, everything on. Flywheel's pinned at this point as well, so you pin the flywheel first, then you put these on. So what I did was I wiggled this about, it was only slightly off, so I managed to wiggle this about enough so that I could get the second tool to lock down, and then I could screw all this together. And I thought, being an amateur, that I'd actually fix the timing. I hadn't, obviously, so didn't realise this until the end, and by that time I'd torqued up the VANOS bolts. Once you've fully torqued them, because they're torqued to yield, you need to replace them if you undo them. Long story short, I ended up going through 3 sets of VANOS bolts. So hopefully this will prevent anybody else from doing the same. So if you're just sorting the timing out, you don't need to use the pre-tension at all. Again, all the videos skip this. The ones that I've seen, well, most of the ones I've seen anyway, skip this. I'm not sure whether or not it makes much difference, but considering I had to redo this 3 times, I thought that I would use it in the end. Now the reason why most people skip the pre-tension at all is that they don't have a torque wrench that will go down to 0.6 Newton meters. So if you have a look for Bimazen, I'll put a link down. In fact, I'll put a link to all the videos down in the description, and anything else I've got links to, plus the torque values for everything that I'm about to talk about. But if you find Bimazen, he has modified a 3D printed torque wrench. He doesn't actually say how to calibrate, exactly how to calibrate this, or what brand of PLA he uses. He just says that you need to calibrate it because all PLA is different, etc. Now what I found was I actually printed this in a couple of different types, but the Bamboo Labs standard PLA seemed to be bang on, so I'm assuming that's probably what he used. You can buy these from him, and I'm assuming he checks the calibration before he sends them out, or you can 3D print them at home. Again, I'll put a link down on how to calibrate these, and a link to the download files. So Let me just check what's next. So before you do anything, so if you're like I say, if you're you can't lock these down, you need to do the timing first, but one of the first things you should probably do is check the VANOS. The VANOSes are okay. So how you do that is, before you've locked anything down, use a 27mm spanner and pull it on here, and basically if you can only move it like less than 10 degrees, which you can see how much I'm moving that by, not by much, it means that the VANOS is okay. If you can move that a long way, then they need replacing as well. So before you get to the point of putting all this back together, putting the chain on, check the VANOSes first, because if you need to order them, then you might as well do that to begin with. Mine were okay, thankfully. I actually checked that last, but that's because I didn't know what I was doing at the time. So my advice is to just watch all these videos I'm going to put links to, find any information you can, and just do as much. If you don't know what you're doing with these, just do as much research as you can before you actually do the job. Don't do what I did, just follow along and then find that you've got to redo everything afterwards, because it's just a pain in the backside. So assuming that you've sorted out the timing, obviously, before you've locked all this down, and you've got to the point where you're sort of torquing the bolts up. As I say, you should be following along somebody else's video, but feel free to pop back and refer to this one. So you can torque this one up, which is the crankshaft bolt in the middle of those four, basically the one in the middle. That needs to be torqued to, check, 50 Newton meters, and then you turn it 180 degrees, so it's a stress to yield bolt. Obviously, like I say, everything is pinned down at this point. You've got these in, you've got the pin in the flywheel, 50 Newton meters on the crankshaft bolt, and then 180 degrees. Then after that, you want to fit the exhaust VANOS first. Put your bolt in finger tight only. We're not torquing it at this point. Finger tight only. Make sure it's on there. Put the chain over the top, obviously, finger tight. Then do the inlet, finger tight. Then, and again, pretty much everybody I've seen skips this, and I'll tell you why it's probably a bad idea. If you skip this and you basically go through everything, torque everything up, and then fit this last, what you'll find is that this chain is too taut. Then you'll go to fit this on top, and you'll find that this really pushes down on it. What can happen is that it can rock these two inwards slightly, and that will throw your timing out. Not by much, and to be fair, it will probably be okay, but why not do it properly? Now, I was worried about it. I fitted this down, I had to really tighten it down. You could see it really stretching down, so I decided to order new VANOS bolts again and redo all of this. So do yourself a favour and just do it in this order. So exhaust on first, finger tight. Inlet on second, finger tight. Pull this chain tight. I just did it by rocking these anti-clockwise, so that chain is nice and tight on this side, right? Because this is the side that doesn't have the tensioner on it. Then fit the slide rail or top guide, whatever you want to call it. Torque these down to 8 Newton meters. I actually put blue Loctite on these. It didn't say that you had to. I was a little bit worried because it's quite a low torque on these, and it's inside a vibrating engine. Apparently, if you over torque these, it can strip the threads underneath. So I didn't want to tighten it up any more than 8. So that's what I did. Feel free to copy that or not put the Loctite on, whatever you wish. So once that's torqued down, you want to use the pre-tensioner tool. Let me just double check. So obviously, if you're just doing the timing and you're not changing the chain, then just leave the tensioner in there, unless of course you want to take it out and check it. So that's what the tool looks like. Comes with the kit, which is just a cheap kit off of Amazon. Comes with the locking pin, which is up there. My one came with 2 types, because I think it fits 2 different engines. That one's the one for the N18, it's the shorter one. Obviously the cam locks, and this, which weirdly I didn't realise was the pre-tension at all until I'd already done this like twice at this point. So fit that in, make sure that's sort of wound all the way out, wind this all the way out, and then screw this all the way in until it's in as far as it will go. Then put your 3D printed pre-tensioning torque wrench on the end, tighten that up to 0.6 Newton meters, so it just clicks once, it's done. What you want to do as well though, is every time you rotate the engine, you want to check the pre-tension, because you want to take up all the slack in this, because it won't be fully tensioned the next time you turn it around. I can guarantee that. Once you've done it a few times, you'll find that will click straight away every time you tighten it. But I'd probably do this even if you don't have to do adjust the timing on it. The timing's perfect. I would rotate it by 720 degrees. So basically this has got to turn around twice. If you see down here, so basically if you look here, that's in the way, that's why. So flat at the top, flat on the edges, and the underneath is rounded. So just make sure that round bit comes around twice. One other little tip is when you go to get the locking pin in, it's not a ball ache. You probably will never get it that hole bang in the center. You might do it by accident once. Easy way of doing it is get nearly round to this point, so this is basically nearly flat but not quite. Then rotate your crank and just a little bit until this is basically just about down. Right, not quite down but just about down. Then go underneath, use a little mirror, see where that hole is. You should just about see it. Put your pin in and hold it in, put pressure on it, and then reach over with your other hand and move the crank while you're pushing it in, and you'll just move it a bit, and as it moves around you'll get that pin in. Otherwise you'll be up and down just rotating the engine until you go crazy. So let me just see what the next bit is. So right, so basically you rotate it twice, put your locking tool on. So as I said, my issue was this back one, right? So when I put it all back together, even though I thought I'd sorted the timing, I hadn't. So one thing I probably forgot to say was that once you've done your pre-tension on here, actually you need to torque both of these to 20 Newton meters. Do not tighten them any more than that, because if you over torque them, we have to turn these 180 later, but if you over torque them now and you have to undo these, you'll have to replace them. As I say, I've done that. So 20 Newton meters on both after you've done the pre-tension install. So once you've done that, take off all of your locks and the pin, rotate it 720, put your locks back on and see whether or not these are out. Now obviously it depends on which is out. It could be this one. My one was this one, so this is one I'll talk about. So put that one down, that's okay. This one's out. So at that point you want to get your 27mm spanner and stick it on here. You want to loosen this off with this actually on. Like I say, it'll be sat at an angle, okay? It won't be fully flat against the other one down here, which I've got off at the moment. So I'll just quickly put that on there just to make sure that it's clear. So that one's flat. You've put this one on and this one is not flat. Put your 27mm spanner on there, loosen this off, and then just use the 27mm spanner to get this flat. Job done. Torque that back up, take all the locking pin off, the cam locks and the pin off, then rotate it 720 again, put the pin in, check your torque, on the thing, torque it back up again if you need to. Well, just do it anyway, just check it. Check this again. Now this one might still be a bit out, so just do that again. Loosen that off, use your 27mm spanner, get that flat, and basically just repeat this until you get to the point where you've turned that around and these are flat together. Then your timing is sorted, remembering every time before you put these on, but after you've done the pin, to torque up that down there. Like I say, if you do it once and it's fine, great. Do it a couple more times, and each time you do it, just take the torque on that, just to make sure that that is fully torqued. Future Neil here. Past Neil forgot to mention that at this point you need to torque both the VANOS bolts up before going any further. So with everything locked, with the pin in, with the locking tool on the cams, you need to torque the inlet first. It should already be torqued to 20 Newton meters, as I previously said. Now you need to turn it another 180 degrees. Then do the exhaust. Again, it should already be 20 Newton meters. Then turn it another 180 degrees. Then that should be done. Just another note that I've written detailed instructions on how to do all of this in the description, but that are much easier to follow than my ramblings. So watch the video, but then when you're doing it, have a look at the instructions, because it's done step by step. Cheers. So once you've done all that, you want to right, so with the pin in, take these off, pull your pre-tensioner out and put your chain tensioner in. You need to tension that to 80 Newton meters. Okay, then take your pin out, turn it over again, and just double check for the last time that your timing is still okay. So you turn it back over, put your pin in, put these both on. It should be perfect by this point because you've checked it multiple times. These should be flat, and then it's job done, and all you've got to do is rebuild the engine after that. Put everything back together again. Right, I hope that helps somebody. That's it.